A satanic holiday display at the state capitol has been vandalized after receiving pushback from religious Iowans and the governor. This is the shrine earlier this week before it was vandalized. Capitol Police say the statue of Baphomet, the goat-headed figure that you see in these videos, was damaged earlier today. They add a Mississippi man has been charged with fourth-degree criminal mischief for the incident. Governor Kim Reynolds has called for residents to pray for the state in response to the display.
Finally, a Christian with a set of balls. This video right here is going to sound a little bit like a rant at first, like going in different directions, but trust me, I do link it at the very end, so make sure you guys stick around for the full video. As happy as I am to see somebody with the actual cojones to go and remove the head off a satanic statue, which by the way is blasphemous, it also pains me to say that we got other problems, including this story here where a staffer, which by the way, I didn't report on this when it officially broke. I wanted to get a few more facts before I decided to do that. I'm just leaving you guys this Twitter account so that way you guys can see it. I'm not even going to bother to try to pronounce that name. By the way, this Senate staffer worked for Democratic Senator Ben Cardin out of Maryland, a guy who's like 80 some odd years old, and is actually an amalgamation of everything that's wrong in America right now, especially given the fact that the statue in this situation to me roughly happened at the same time. So I'm not surprised that people don't take this nation seriously, especially given the nature of its politicians. By the way, that extends to Republicans too. So don't worry, we're going to be covering both sides of this because there's a lot of hypocrisy in both of these stories. The mental gymnastics to defend these sex acts on camera in the Capitol building, they're absolutely amazing. How it is that you got guys like the Krasensteins now looking at Lauren Boebert and what she did. Of course, I do not condone what Lauren Boebert did. But still, though, that right there, I don't think is the same as this situation here. This was the actual Capitol building where our politicians that we actually send to Congress go to work. That is what's going on here. Also, to go on top of this, it also kind of confirms what Madison Cawthorn said about the place being completely debaucherous. Also, Ashley St. Clair, she has also said that the place was debaucherous. Anybody who's ever worked on Capitol Hill or anybody who's ever been a reporter on Capitol Hill will tell you that the place is full of degeneracy. So it doesn't surprise me that this happens, but it also is, how do I say this? It's also indicative of exactly where we're at as far as our politicians are concerned. Now, guys, I'm going to be talking mostly in this video about the statue, but I do want to give you guys some comments on this because these two situations to me are linked, and it is pronounced. And of course, on top of the fact it is pronounced, it's also indicative of where we are as a society. And it also tells me what most of us should have already known. Satan really and truly has infiltrated this nation. Now, guys, I want you to pay very close attention to this 30-some-odd second report on the staffer before we get to the statue, because I find it odd how it is that for whatever reason, this Fox affiliate chose to leave out the details in this story. It's almost like they wanted this story buried.
New at 10, the United States Senate is being rocked by a sex scandal. U.S. Capitol Police are investigating after a sex tape surfaced online. It showed two men engaged in sex acts inside room 216 of the Hare Senate Office building. That's a famous hearing room where U.S. senators have grilled high-profile presidential nominees, including Supreme Court justices. It's unclear if the tape will be considered criminal conduct, but it may have violated Senate ethics rules.
We will get to this here in a second. Just know that it's absolutely disgusting that this happened. And even though this person has been fired, they have been let go, I think the punishment should be, let's just say, a little bit more severe. I'm almost tempted to say that maybe we should send this person to a country that doesn't exactly appreciate that, because obviously, as you guys know, a lot of these free Palestine people, a lot of these queers for Palestine people, they think that the Middle East is, let's just say, an extremely welcoming and inclusive environment for those in the LGBT community. But let's get back to the statue. My stance on statues is this here. I don't believe that statues should be taken down. However, this right here is a special case. You see, one of the arguments that people love to use against Confederate statues is that they love to say stuff like, well, the people want it down, so therefore it should be removed. However, there's been no actual evidence of this. All the movements that have been done to remove Confederate statues, and even statues of, say, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and even statues of Union Army personnel. Of course, they did go after the guy who has a statue. I think it's Hans Christian Andersen. I think it's no, Christensen, my bad. I actually, I have no idea where I got Hans Christian Andersen from, but of course the guy's name was Christensen. He was a Swedish officer in the Union Army, was removed by Black Lives Matter. Also, BLM, they desecrated the 54th Massachusetts statue in Boston, Massachusetts, and they went after a statue of Abraham Lincoln as well. So the statue thing, obviously, is not just down to the Confederacy. They're going after anything and everything that at one point in time could be considered to be pro-America or American history, regardless of how dark that history may be. The thing is this right here. In this case right here, it's a little bit different. You see, in the case of the Confederate statues, if you put it up to a vote, every time you will see that the people who live there still want the statue up. Those right there, by the way, are probably the people who should choose this. And of course, me being the very, very pro-statue guy, I'm here to tell you right now, if the people want the statue, then obviously the statue is going to remain up. However, in the case of this situation with the Satanic statue in Iowa, and of course it being beheaded, this situation to me screams that the people who live in that area and the people of Iowa obviously found this to be shameful. It's funny how it is that you win a court case and all of a sudden the courts will allow this thing to go up when obviously it should not. Now, something else, too, has been said about this situation. A lot of people are blaming Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds for having the statue up. Now, at first, I also did the exact same thing. Why the hell is the statue up? Why in the hell did you allow this thing to be put in the Iowa State House? Well, come to find out, it wasn't fully her fault, but we'll be saving that video for a later date in the future. But the mental gymnastics here are how it is that Kim Reynolds endorses a person for president, that they're being DeSantis. I'm not making this video to attack DeSantis. I don't think that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing that at all. I'm attacking somebody in his camp. So DeSantis comes out, he gives a statement, puts it on Twitter. He's very, very much against the statue being up. But then you got Jenna Ellis, the person who's only famous for grifting off of Donald Trump's election efforts in 2020, coming out and basically defending the statue being there. Most Iowans actually want that statue gone. Go back to what I was saying before about putting it up for a vote, especially when it comes to Confederate statues. There have been multiple efforts to remove statues, and of course, they got what they wanted in removing Robert E. Lee. However, this issue was never actually put up to a literal vote. Anytime these people try to have a statue removed, this statue always ends up staying up because these people's efforts, in fact, always fail. But then we get a guy like, say, Cassidy.
So, Michael, was this something that you plotted, or is this something you just did on the spur of the moment?
Thanks for having me, Jesse. This was certainly a spur of the moment kind of thing. I saw that this was going on. I was surprised that the legislature allowed it up and that they didn't do anything to take it down, just to take it down. And so I got to the Capitol, and I didn't know what to expect when I got there. Just like that scene in Illinois with tons of people chanting and whatnot. I didn't know what was going to be there, but nobody was there, and it offended me. It touched a nerve. It was, righteous indignation. I'd call it, Christian civil disobedience. So I took the statue that was there and the idol, whatever you want to call it, and then it's no longer there.
How precisely did you decapitate Satan?
Pulled his head off.
Just pulled the head right off and let it crash on the ground.
Pulled it off, and then it's just some cheap fabric, probably like, I don't know, $5, $10, something like that. Tore it off, pulled it apart, put it in a garbage bag, and then I went down to security and told them what I did. I wasn't running away or anything like that. I told them what I did. They were very professional. Then they gave me the citation and sent me on my way.
All right, and then beams of light started to shoot down from the heavens right onto your head, I'm sure. Okay, Counselor, you right now...
Now, Cassidy has received a lot of donations. I mean, I think he raised like $30,000 in the first 3 days of this. I donated about $10. But still at the same time, though, the thing is this here. Did anybody not expect Christians to get involved? I mean, I'm a Christian myself, and at some point in time, you got to ask yourself a question. When are these people going to finally get involved? You see, one of the things about Christianity that we've had to listen to, we've had to deal with, especially when it comes to this topic, especially from the left, and this also includes some even red pill personalities, is that they don't take Christianity seriously because we typically don't tend to pick up our sword and go fight. Oftentimes, we kind of want to be left the hell alone, just that way we can preach our message or get the message out. But when somebody actually physically goes out there and actually takes down or at least decapitates a satanic statue, obviously that's a victory. And obviously it tells people that Christians are in fact waking up. Which of course is where I'm going to ask Jenna Ellis, a person who puts up pro-Christianic stuff. Well, she doesn't put it up all the time. She does it when it suits her. One of the main problems that we have is that we have what we call grifters. Jenna Ellis, by the way, she rolled over on the Trump administration, basically took a plea deal like Sidney Powell did. Of course, is not going to gain anything in that Georgia case. The same person got Gavin Mario Wax fired from the Babylon Bee. Then after that, she chose to use Christianity and Bible verses to give her some form of shield. These people are not true Christians. These people are people who grift off the name. These are people who use it to suit their own goal or suit their own side in the argument. Jenna Ellis is not a genuine person, so her defending this statue being up and condemning the person who actually decapitated the statue is absolutely rich, in my opinion. But there are anti-blasphemy laws on the record.
Was it Biden-Harris? Didn't they bail out the people that toppled the statue of Thomas Jefferson? Do you expect Democrats maybe to help fund or help donate to your client's GoFundMe here? This is Satan.
No,
not really in the same league as Jefferson.
No, we certainly don't expect those kind of donations, but there have been a lot of people that have come together and been incredibly generous and have wanted to stand by a Christian who was taking a stand for good. This is obviously a question of good and evil, and it's important in our society we recognize that. So that's really what motivated Michael to do this, and there's a lot of people that are willing to stand by him, and we will ensure everything is done possible to make sure he gets the equal protection under the law. Absolutely.
I mean, these satanic people, do they legally have a right to erect this dopey thing? Because it doesn't even seem like they're a real religion.
So that's a great question. Under the First Amendment, under our case law, there has not been a single case that has ever found that Satanism can be considered a religion under our Constitution.
Okay.
And even more than that, even more than that, blasphemy laws, anti-blasphemy laws have been upheld by our Supreme Court into the 20th century.
So why are the politicians in Iowa allowing it?
Fear. They're afraid to take a stand, and they're afraid to challenge this when the law is clear. And regardless of that, they're afraid to challenge evil. And that's what we need to do. But that's the problem with Christians and the church in this country. We have to be able to take a stand. We cannot buy into the myth of neutrality in the public square. Otherwise, we get chaos.
As I said, I'm not really into toppling statues, but if there was one statue in the whole country that deserves toppling.
If there's anti-blasphemy laws on the record, then I don't think there's a whole lot you can do. Now, guys, next year when we start doing video essays, statues was something that was going to be brought up in one of the videos. It's definitely on my list, so we'll be going more into the anti-blasphemy laws a little bit later on down the road. But with those anti-blasphemy laws in place, it basically tells people, look, maybe we have approved of everything for the exception of satanic statues, so maybe that's what it is. Me personally, I wouldn't want these statues up, but then again, at the same time, I understand why. And let me say this, okay, before I go any further. I may have mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to say it again. The vast majority of these pro-satanic groups or these satanic temples that actually want these statues up, they really do it just to be an annoyance to Christians. That's the real reason why they do it. Oftentimes, they end up losing their court cases. It just so happens to be that this was a situation where they were able to get one through, not to mention the one in Arkansas. But that's the only reason why it is that these people even do this. They're not serious people at all. As a matter of fact, Satanism itself is not even really and truly an actual religion. It's just a stylized form of atheism. Devil worship is actually taking Christianity and reversing it. These people right here, for the most part, are just stylized atheists. They also always swing to the left, which is where I'm going to be getting at with this next topic, going back, and I mean going back to the gay sex tape being recorded in the Capitol building. Before I actually talk about this, let's go back in time centuries, okay? A lot of people don't realize this, and seeing how it is that my first video of the day is going to be Bill Maher's take on the useful idiots of Free Palestine movement, here's the thing. Back, and I'm talking, this was shortly after the Greeks officially took over Israel, because of course Israel is a land that's been conquered by multiple different nations, and of course people have, let's just say, they've been hating on the Jews for a very long time. Of course, I can already hear somebody in the comment section saying, Israel shield, go right ahead. And by the way, if you're a historian and you know this topic that I'm about to talk about very well, please say something in the comment section. So one of the things that the Israelis or the Jewish were really upset about right before the Maccabean revolt was that the Greeks used to practice hardcore sex acts in the gyms that they had built. By the way, these acts were not man on woman. These acts were man on man. Eventually, the leader, Antiochus Epiphanes, Antiochus IV, he would basically commit what they call the abomination of desolation. He would slay a pig or sacrifice one on the brazen altar. And of course, that right there was the triggering event to that war. So you got to ask yourself a question. Is the United States going through a moment just like that? I mean, by the way, if you're a historian and you know that war very well, please leave a comment in the comment section. I only know a little bit about that, but I do know about the abomination of desolation. And it seems to me like maybe the American people would be right to be pissed off over something like, say, a guy recording a certain type of sex act inside the halls of Congress, and of course it eventually getting out. And of course the media is going out of their way to cover this entire thing up. And even though said individual has been fired, it has not stopped them from putting up articles like what I'm showing you now. He did it in an act of love. Give me a freaking break. This right here was absolutely disgusting. And as a nation, we need to be pushing back. Look, I understand people saying, well, look, we'll give this group gay marriage and maybe it'll stop. No. You give an inch, eventually they take a foot. If you give 3 feet, eventually they take a rope. Eventually they do in fact end up hanging themselves with it, but still at the same time, they always go too far once you give them a little bit. That's the point. Now, obviously, this guy woke up. He decided to go in there and decapitate this satanic statue. Good on him. But the thing is this right here. It happened roughly right around the same time that footage was released. And by the way, the Daily Caller has the footage. It was all over Twitter, so you kind of couldn't help but see some of it. Of course, it's blocked out, of course, thank God. But this guy was actually performing homosexuality in the Capitol building. And of course, to go on top of this, he was actually recording this. This also led to a controversy online where people were accusing Tim Pool of watching gay porn, yet Tim Pool was trying to discover how they would actually film it because it looks like the camera may have been on the person who was actually giving. It may have been on his actual head at the time. I mean, like he probably like a band or whatnot, but still at the same time, I don't think that really truly matters at this moment in time. But the fact that this guy is saying that you're all homophobic for this right here, we're all homophobic for calling this out, I think is a load of BS. Fact of the matter is this right here. We send politicians to Washington, D.C. to do their job. We already know that they're looking for beer and strippers and whatever, and that they're debaucherous. But as long as you're actually doing your job and keeping the house, America's house, relatively clean, we typically tend to look the other way. However, when we find out that there's actually gay sex going on in the Capitol building being recorded, and this happens roughly at the exact same time that somebody got the balls to go chop the head off of a satanic statue, it tells me that some very bad things are on the way. Yes, I'm going spiritual on this one. We are about to go into the end times. I probably may create a Bible prophecy channel at some point in time, but still, I want to kind of push back on that. I want to kind of pull back on it for now. This to me just goes to show you exactly what has corrupted our society. I view it as symbolic. Now you've got people actually doing these acts in the house that the taxpayers pay for. The same exact way the Iowa taxpayers did not want the Satanic Temple in their state house. The people of America don't want this crap going on in the federal house, the house where most of our tax dollars go, where they decide what they're going to do with those tax dollars to pay for our military and those little funds, those little programs that these people want to have so that way they can be free from responsibility. And then after fired, after removed, you then scream it was done for homophobia. That right there to me is classic. That is classically, that is exactly where the left in this country is today. However, as I mentioned before, it also goes to Republican politicians as well. I'm pretty sure if you go into their background, I'm pretty sure you're going to find a lot of things there that, quite frankly, they would not want to be lifted up into the light. Fact of the matter is, this right here is completely indicative of where our nation is. And obviously, somebody has gotten upset and somebody has decided to actually do something about it. And good on that man for taking down that statue's head. But still at the same time, this guy here, the one who recorded the guy who was actually doing the act in the halls of Congress, well, I think the proper punishment for him would be send him to the Middle East. Yes, send him to the Middle East. These free Palestine people, these queers for Palestine, they don't seem to understand exactly what it is that they're asking for. They don't exactly understand the laws of those nations in the Middle East. They don't exactly understand how the Sunni Muslims act. So if you really and truly want to red pill these people, give them what they want. Send them over there. With that right there being said, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. I had some updates scheduled in the last video. I had some updates scheduled for this video here. I'm going to wait till tomorrow's video to give you guys a few more. And, of course, that video to kind of end the year is going to be coming out on the 23rd. So make sure you guys stick around for that. And, of course, there's probably going to be some videos after Christmas. Not that many, but I'll explain it more in tomorrow's videos. So make sure you guys stick around for those. Make sure you guys, once again, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and Merry Christmas.